And it's a family ring.
It is a family ring, yes. It's my mother's engagement ring. So I thought it was quite nice because obviously she's not going to be around to share any of the fun and excitement of it all. This was my way of keeping her sort of close to it all.
Imagine Buckingham Palace, centuries of unbroken tradition, shattered by a single moment of real emotion when Queen Camilla wept in private chambers, caught entirely off guard. A hush fell over the gilded hallways as aides exchanged glances, struggling to process what they had just witnessed. The Queen consort, famed for her steely composure and unflappable demeanor, emerged from an urgent meeting with her shoulders trembling and eyes glistening with tears. In the history of these storied walls, few moments have been so raw, so unguarded as an echo of vulnerability heard in every echoing corridor. Rumors raced through palace staff. What secret could pierce the armor of a monarch who endured decades of scorn, who battled public disdain to claim her place beside the king? That public weeping is more than a personal breakdown. It is a signal flare reflecting deep fissures beneath the royal facade. When a consort of the realm allows her guard to drop, it robs the institution of its legendary image of invincibility. Whispers of crisis seeped into the tabloids by dawn, but the truth lay hidden in the hushed vaults of Buckingham Palace. What unfolded in those closed doors would ripple across courts and commoners alike, rewriting the script of monarchy in real time. At the heart of this upheaval stands Carole Middleton, the unassuming mother whose steady hand shaped the image of the future king and queen. She arrived that morning with no entourage, no public declaration, only a leather-bound dossier that bore the weight of years of meticulous observation. In her quiet confidence, she carried the power to tilt the balance of centuries-old protocol. Her presence alone was enough to leave Queen Camilla, the very embodiment of regal endurance, undone. Today, we embark on a journey to uncover the contents of that briefcase. Documents tracing property contracts, financial trails woven through shell accounts, and records of protocol games designed to edge an entire family to the margins. These are not merely papers, they are the map of a silent power struggle, where influence is wielded with subtler force than any royal decree. Behind the refined smiles and choreographed appearances, a battle for the future of the crown raged in shadows. This is more than gossip or palace intrigue. It is a high-stakes drama in which the very concept of royal authority is tested. As we peel back the layers of secrecy, we will reveal how one woman's unassuming courage forced a queen consort to confront her own vulnerabilities. The tremor that began with Camilla's tears is not an isolated quake. It is the opening tremor of seismic changes reshaping Buckingham's power map. As the palace reels from that private breakdown, we must rewind to see how an ordinary mother became a royal power player. She wasn't born into a privileged daughter of a builder and shop clerk turned flight attendant. Carole Middleton's rise to Buckingham's inner sanctum was anything but ordained. Carole's story begins far from gilded halls and royal pageantry, in a modest home where her parents balanced construction plans and shop ledgers to provide for their children. From teenage flight attendant to co-founder of Party Pieces, she displayed an unyielding work ethic and an instinct for opportunity. What started as birthday balloons and party favors unfolded into a thriving family business, a testament to grit, creativity, and the power of genuine connection. Those who watched her build the enterprise from scratch saw more than a savvy entrepreneur. They saw a woman whose warmth and determination radiated even through the most difficult setbacks. It was this very warmth that bridged two worlds when her daughter Catherine entered royal life. In a realm defined by protocol, Carole offered Catherine something rare, an anchor of normalcy. Christmas mornings with simple games, kitchen conversations over tea, laughter unburdened by prying cameras. These moments grounded the future princess in a reality far removed from palace formality. Through late-night phone calls and whispered advice, Carole guided Catherine's early days as a royal, reminding her that compassion and relatability could coexist with duty and decorum. Unlike many aristocrats whose titles opened doors, Carole's credentials came from real-world resilience. Her success was earned, not inherited, and this distinction didn't go unnoticed by William and Catherine. Over time, she became their secret strategist. Gentle counsel on public appearances that hinted at sincerity, parenting tips drawn from raising 3 headstrong children, and candid conversations about balancing family with the relentless demands of monarchy. She never sought the limelight. Her influence manifested in subtle shifts, a more relaxed wave to the crowd, a candid smile behind closed gates, a moment of unguarded authenticity on a world stage. Her presence was a quiet rebellion against centuries-old hierarchy, proving that genuine human connection could hold more sway than any ancestral pedigree. Each time Catherine defied stiff expectations with a heartfelt gesture, or William responded to charitable pleas with personal anecdotes, Carole's fingerprints were there, hidden in plain sight. Her authentic guidance humanized the future king and queen, forging a bond with the public that no royal decree could replicate. And yet, this earned influence carried its own risks. In a palace built on lineage and legacy, Carole's ascent unsettled those who measured worth by birthright. Her rise was a slow burn, a testament to her patience and strategic patience, never demanding permission but simply demonstrating value until it could no longer be denied. As whispers of her role grew louder within the marble halls, the true power of authenticity became impossible to dismiss, setting the stage for conflicts that would challenge the very foundations of the royal establishment. But comfort and consistency have never sat easily beside centuries-old protocols. The 29th of April, 2011, while the world watched Westminster Abbey, beneath those gilded arches, a silent tension was already brewing between two mothers. As Catherine glided down the aisle in pure ivory, the cameras captured unity and joy, but backstage, Carole Middleton's carefully chosen ideas vanished into royal red tape. She had envisioned personal nods to her daughter's heritage, hand-picked wildflowers woven into the bouquets, family photos subtly displayed in private rooms, heartfelt touches that would breathe warmth into centuries-old ritual. Instead, those suggestions were politely acknowledged and then quietly dismissed, claimed as too informal or not in keeping with tradition. All the while, Camilla stood poised, her posture immaculate, her expression composed, projecting the unshakable grace of a woman born to this world. Carole, on the other hand, felt the cold sting of invisibility. Her presence reduced to the periphery of carefully arranged portraits. The contrast was undeniable. In the public eye, these women smiled side by side, but in hushed corners of the palace, servants whispered of Carole's exclusion. She watched as her proposals were overridden without debate, her dreams of contributing to her daughter's crowning moment swept aside without a second glance. The palace's polished facade concealed an undercurrent of unease, where lineage eclipsed love and protocol outweighed partnership. Carole's heart tightened as she stood by, the memory of her own modest upbringing rooted in genuine connection and familial pride echoing in every unanswered plea. Amid the hush of ceremonial fanfare, first whispers of cool formality drifted through the corridors. Those close to the Middleton family later recalled how Carole's usual warmth was met with measured courtesy, rather than the effusive welcome she had always known. Invitations that once flowed freely became constrained by royal schedules. Conversations that once felt spontaneous now adhered to unseen scripts. The invisible barrier between Carole and the inner circle of the royal household grew, marked by the absence of her voice in conversations she helped spark, and the absence of her touch in details she hoped to shape. Yet beneath Carole's silent frustration lay the kernel of something more potent, a seed of resilience that would sprout in the years to come. In that moment of marginalization, she glimpsed the true contours of palace power, understanding that influence often hid behind decorum's velvet curtain. Though her heart ached, she refused to wilt. Instead, she resolved to observe, to document, and to wait for an opening where authenticity might triumph over ancestry. As the crowds cheered the newlyweds on that spring day, a quieter drama had already begun its first act, one that would span a decade of subtle battles and shifting loyalties. The seeds of rivalry, planted beneath those gilded arches, would take root in every whispered slight and every cancelled invitation, growing stronger as time marched on. That discreet rejection would only intensify as the Cambridges welcomed their first child. Prince George's birth was supposed to unite two families, yet palace protocol squeezed out the grandmother who had journeyed thousands of flights to be by her daughter's side. When the announcement came on the 22nd of July, 2013, a wave of joy should have washed away old rivalries. Instead, Carole arrived at Paddington Station clutching gifts and blankets, eager to cradle her grandson. But Buckingham's unseen rules had already drawn tight lines around the nursery. Nannies in crisp uniforms became gatekeepers to the royal child, enforcing schedules that left Carole's arms empty and her heart heavy. Every visit felt like walking a tightrope. Invitations were extended with conditions: arrive at precise times, depart before afternoon tea, and never linger near the royal nursery beyond official hours. Holidays. once a time for family warmth, were dissected by palace aides who prioritized royal engagements over grandmotherly bonding. Carole found herself rerouted to distant cottages instead of plush guest suites. Weekend trips meant hurried hugs through drawing room windows, never the full embrace she longed for. The sting was subtle but unrelenting, a gentle shove that whispered, "You're welcome, but only on our terms." Then came July 2015, and the christening of Princess Charlotte. Carole had planned a small luncheon afterward, a chance to gather relatives for photographs and cake. The Middleton home, filled with laughter and the scent of freshly baked scones, stood ready to welcome the new princess. But hours before the ceremony at the Church of St. Mary Magdalene, an urgent missive arrived. The gathering was cancelled. Royal duties called the Cambridges back to London, leaving Carole's living room echoing with empty seats and unanswered questions. She tucked away the fine linens and silent teacups, feeling the weight of another private dismissal. Despite the mounting frustration, Carole never raised her voice in public. She understood that protest could shatter the fragile bonds holding her family together. Instead, she carried each slight in her memory, marking them as evidence of the palace's unspoken power. Still, she refused to retreat entirely. In quiet moments, she recorded the dates, the cancelled plans, the curt instructions that came by messenger rather than a personal call. These notes, simple lists of exclusions, became a ledger of grudges read behind closed doors. Yet within Carole's restraint lay a steely resolve. She had built an empire from party favors and pastel balloons. She knew how to turn disappointment into strategy. Every thwarted visit deepened her understanding of royal dynamics. Each cancelled event sharpened her awareness of alliances and hierarchies. What felt like rejection fueled her determination to find another path into her grandchildren's lives, one carved by patience and persistence rather than protocol. Through it all, Catherine watched from both sides of the divide, torn between her duties as a royal and her loyalty to the mother who taught her compassion. The princess learned to negotiate the silent rules, to squeeze stolen moments with her mother into the cracks of her schedule. In those brief, unscripted embraces, Carole found her greatest triumph: the knowledge that genuine love cannot be banished by palatial policy. One quietly cancelled gathering is a bruise, but a cold comment at a milestone birthday is a defining moment. The 14th of November, 2018, King Charles's 70th birthday, was toasting loyalty. Instead, Carole Middleton overheard a cutting remark that crystallized her outsider status. The grand ballroom of Buckingham Palace gleamed under crystal chandeliers as dukes, duchesses, and dignitaries raised their champagne flutes in reverent salute. Laughter rippled through the tide of jewel-toned gowns, and speeches extolled decades of royal duty. Yet amidst the opulence, Carole lingered at the edge of a gilded pillar, clutching a glass of elderflower cordial, hoping for a moment of inclusion. When Camilla, perched confidently near the dais, murmured disdainfully to a circle of lifelong aristocrats, "No matter how much money she earns, new wealth will never match our heritage." Those words cut sharper than any blade. In that instant, the weight of every dismissed suggestion and every frostily received invitation descended upon Carole's shoulders. She recalled polite refusals, whispered behind silk fans, the stifling formality that left her voice unheard in discussions she had hoped would honor her daughter's milestones. In a single sentence, Camilla's jibe distilled years of polite exclusion, a reminder that bloodlines and birthrights held sway in these halls, leaving Carole's hard-won successes rendered invisible. As the birthday revelries swelled, Carole felt a fierce impulse to speak out, to defend her years of steadfast support. But she held her tongue. Experience had taught her that public confrontation would only reinforce the very barriers she longed to break. Instead, she made a quiet decision in that marble gallery. No more subtle pleas, no more chasing fleeting invitations. From that moment, she would step back, allowing her presence to be felt through actions rather than anxieties. Returning to her elegant townhouse that night, Carole opened a leather-bound journal and began the first entry of what would become a meticulous chronicle. Date, time, location, each slightly carefully recorded alongside the context that gave it force. A cancelled luncheon here, a curt dismissal there, and now, Camilla's whispered barb, captured in black and white. These entries were not born of bitterness alone, but of determination. By cataloging every affront, Carole armed herself with evidence that protocol was too often wielded as a weapon to marginalize her family. Yet in that deliberate retreat, she cultivated a new strategy. observe, understand, and wait for the moment when influence could no longer be denied. The palace's alliances and hierarchies revealed themselves to her in those pages, each note sharpening her insight into the very mechanisms that sought to constrain her. In the months that followed, Carole's absence at select events stirred more speculation than her presence ever had, highlighting the power of a silent exit. Under the glittering splendor of royal ceremonies, Carole's resolve crystallized into a force as formidable as any crown. She would no longer chase acknowledgement, but instead command respect through the unbroken consistency of her purpose. And as whispers of her journal spread among trusted aides, the palace's meticulously constructed veneer began to show cracks. That evening marked a shift from hope to wary observation so subtle only insiders noticed. March 2024. At Prince Louis's school concert, the cameras caught two women at opposite ends of a crowded room, queen and grandmother, united only by their silence. As the children's choir began to sing, Carole stood at the back row, her posture calm but her gaze fixed on the platform. Across the room, Queen Camilla lingered near the stage, her lips pressed in a polite smile, yet her eyes avoiding Carole's. Not a nod passed between them. No shared glance of solidarity. It was as if an invisible chasm lay between their polished gowns, a gulf carved by years of unspoken slights. Prince William hovered between them, shuffling awkwardly in his role as peacemaker. His polite laughter fell flat as he attempted to draw them together, with subtle gestures that went unnoticed or were politely rebuffed. One moment he offered a soft word to his mother. The next, a gentle pat on his wife's back. Yet neither woman budgets. Their restraint spoke volumes, each silent refusal louder than any spoken rebuke. Body language became their lingua franca. Camilla's crossed arms and measured distance broadcast superiority, while Carole's steady stance and unwavering stare embodied quiet defiance. Onlookers sensed the tension, whispering that two matriarchs once bound by familial ties now navigated a battlefield of cold formality. In that charged atmosphere, the chorus of children's voices played on, oblivious to the adult feud framing their performance. Unbeknownst to the broader world, Carole's calm exterior masked a hidden arsenal of documentation. Over the past months, she had diligently logged every canceled visit, every curt message, and every blocked request for family time. Her leather-bound journal swelled with entries, dates of padded schedules, notes on unreturned calls, precise descriptions of the palace protocols that kept her at arm's length. Like a detective building a case, she tracked each incident, her pen capturing the palace's covert maneuvers in meticulous detail. Whispers of her records filtered through the inner circle. Trusted aides, once loyal to Camilla's vision of tradition, began to question the wisdom of marginalizing the Middleton matriarch. Rumors circulated of shifting alliances, staffers discreetly voicing sympathy for Carole's plight, quietly questioning whether such rigid protocols served the family or weakened it. In hushed corridors, concerns surfaced that the monarchy's obsession with hierarchy threatened to fracture its most private support network. By the time the concert ended, the world saw only a perfunctory embrace between mother and daughter. But behind closed doors, palace insiders understood the magnitude of what had transpired. The silent rift was no longer confined to whispers. It had become an open wound laid bare for those who knew where to look. Carole's careful documentation was poised to transform speculation into undeniable proof. The tension that had simmered beneath formal smiles was nearing a boiling point. No longer could protocol shield the palace from the fallout of its own rigidity. The balance of influence teetered on the edge soon. It would collapse under the weight of Carole Middleton's revelations. The rift was no longer a whisper. In early 2025, Carole Middleton would bring evidence that could no longer be ignored. The 6th of February, 2025, a lone figure at Buckingham's gates with a leather briefcase full of secrets. Carole Middleton had arrived before dawn, her silhouette backlit by the ornate ironwork, yet no photographer caught the moment. There were no flashing bulbs, no curious onlookers, only the palace staff, blinking awake to a visitor they had been trained to keep at arm's length. Her appearance was a strategic shock, unannounced, unaccompanied, impossible to ignore. Whispers rippled through the corridors as aides hurried to intercept her, their composure cracking under the weight of uncertainty. Inside that briefcase lay the culmination of years of silent observation. Detailed financial trails showing unexplained transfers linked to hidden shell accounts, property contracts revealing questionable reassignments, that subtly eroded the Middletons' proximity and meticulously logged records of every cancelled visit and court dismissal. These were not rumors or second-hand gossip, they were hard documents, each page a testament to exclusion calculated under the guise of tradition. Sources close to the meeting speak of a stunned hush that fell over the room when she set the case on the polished mahogany table. Camilla, who had long wielded protocol like a shield, found herself disarmed by evidence that could not be brushed aside. One aide later recounted how the Queen Consort, usually the epitome of restraint, fled the chamber with tears in her eyes, her composed mask shattered in front of the very staff sworn to uphold her image. For 10 days, Buckingham Palace maintained an uncharacteristic radio silence, as if the building itself had been gagged. No public statements, no carefully scripted appearances, only the quiet hum of frantic internal meetings. When Camilla finally re-emerged for Commonwealth Day on the 11th of March, her customary warmth felt muted. Courtiers noted her curt nods and guarded smiles. Even her walk seemed measured, weighed down by the knowledge that her authority had been publicly rattled. Behind the scenes, the palace underwent a swift and unsettling shakeup. Senior staffers were summoned back from retirement, courtiers reassigned, and high-profile engagements abruptly rescheduled. The normally polished machinery of royal protocol groaned under the strain, revealing how vulnerable image control can be when secrets surface. Briefings leaked to select journalists, fueling speculation that Buckingham's famed discretion had failed. Rumors spread of hastily convened strategy sessions and whispered debates about whether to confront Carole publicly or seek reconciliation in private. The balance of power teetered as those once loyal to Camilla weighed the cost of maintaining rigid tradition against the threat of further exposure. In the wake of that seismic meeting, a different dynamic took shape. The palace walls that once felt impenetrable now looked porous. The old guard, guardians of unchanging hierarchy, found themselves questioning whether the monarchy's future lay in unwavering protocol or in embracing the authenticity Carole had championed. And as Camilla recoiled, Catherine quietly stepped into the void her mother created. While Camilla withdrew, Princess Catherine didn't raise her voice. She simply moved her office closer to the king, and the corridors of power changed course. By March 2025, Palace insiders noticed Camilla's engagements thinning. Her once busy diary reduced to carefully curated appearances that projected caution more than confidence. Gone were the impromptu patron visits. In their place were hushed receptions and brief, tightly managed photographs. Meanwhile, Catherine's schedule swelled with invitations to high-stakes meetings, state functions, and charitable panels where tradition and modernity collided. Without fanfare, she stepped into roles that demanded both empathy and authority, championing mental health initiatives, meeting with international diplomats, and presiding over discussions on sustainable development. Those who observed her in action saw a woman who combined royal gravitas with a relatable warmth inherited from her mother, Carole, whose quiet influence now found expression through her daughter's deeds. The most telling signal of Catherine's ascent came in the hush of a snowy morning when movers appeared at her suite in the palace's west wing. Desks, file cabinets, and personal mementos were carefully transferred to an office just steps from King Charles III's own chambers. It was more than a change of address. It was a strategic repositioning that placed Catherine at the heart of decision-making. In this new proximity, informal conversations over coffee could replace formal briefings, allowing her insights to shape policy long before they reached the public eye. Courtiers whispered that no announcement was necessary. Everyone understood the message. The future queen was now a central figure in the monarchy's inner circle. Public gestures soon reinforced that shift. At a charity gala, Catherine reappeared in a dress she had first worn years earlier, subtly signaling solidarity with citizens facing economic strain. Photos of her interacting with children at a community center flooded social media, showcasing laughter and genuine curiosity rather than staged formality. Each post was carefully crafted, yet felt spontaneous, reflecting a royal recalibration toward authenticity. Observers noted that these moments resonated deeply with the public, building trust and goodwill in ways that protocol-bound appearances could not. Even Prince William's behavior shifted. Long accustomed to stepping into the limelight alongside his wife, he now took a supportive step back in meetings, deferring to Catherine's judgment on matters ranging from charitable funding to diplomatic correspondence. Friends of the couple reported that William began consulting advisors, who once served Princess Diana, seeking counsel on blending tradition with transparency, a move that highlighted his confidence in Catherine's leadership and underscored the old guard's waning influence. Their partnership, long admired for its unity, now projected a narrative of mutual respect and shared responsibility, with Catherine increasingly at William's strategic right hand. In the wake of these changes, Buckingham Palace's power map was redrawn almost overnight, with courtiers adjusting loyalties and agendas to align with the new centers of influence. What began as Carole Middleton's quiet assertion of dignity had rippled outward, empowering Catherine to redefine royal leadership for a modern era. As whispers of this transformation spread through Westminster and beyond, one question emerged above all others. What does this mean for the future of the monarchy? When power shifts in silence, the reverberations echo louder than any decree. So, is the era of crown-born privilege giving way to earned influence? The answer may lie in the hushed corridors of Buckingham Palace, where the forces of lineage and legitimacy now stand in tension. On one side, centuries of hereditary right carry the weight of tradition and ceremony. On the other, the quiet revolution sparked by Carole Middleton's strategic patience and Catherine's deft leadership points to a new foundation built on authenticity and earned respect. Carole's approach was never brash or confrontational. She wielded influence like a shadow artist, subtle, precise, and relentless. Her diary of slights, her careful cultivation of strategic alliances, and her refusal to abandon dignity demonstrated that power need not be loud to be profound. In response, Catherine absorbed those lessons, translating her mother's quiet strategy into a vision for a modern monarchy. By stepping forward with genuine compassion, by anchoring her public persona in relatability, she rewrote the script on royal authority. Influence, she proved, could be earned through empathy and integrity as much as inherited through bloodline. The implications of this shift are vast. If respect can be cultivated through authentic connection, the monarchy faces a choice. Cling to the old hierarchy of stations and titles, or lean into a model where public loyalty springs from shared values and demonstrated compassion. Already, staffers once devoted to preserving protocol have begun whispering that the institution must adapt or risk alienating a generation raised on transparency and equality. The symbolic resonance of Catherine's office move nestled beside the King's chambers speaks to a recalibration of power that extends beyond mere geography. It signals a reordering of influence, where proximity to the throne is measured not by ancestral ties, but by contributions to the crown's purpose and the people's trust. Public perception has followed suit. Audiences once captivated solely by royal spectacle now respond most to moments of genuine humanity. A princess easing holiday burdens for working families, a mother championing mental health with unvarnished honesty, a queen consort walking away from media storms to preserve a more honest legacy. These gestures resonate because they reflect earned credibility, not birthright. The monarchy stands at a crossroads. One path leads back to gilded isolation, the other forward into an era where authority is validated by empathy and effectiveness. Still, the question persists. What becomes of crown-born privilege when the power of public admiration can outshine the sparkle of jewels? Will the institution surrender its accustomed rituals, or will it find a delicate balance that honors heritage while embracing progress? The coming years will test whether tradition can coexist with transformation, whether royal decree must give way to popular mandate, or if a synthesis of both will define the next chapter. Now, we turn to you, the observer beyond these palace gates. Where does real power lie? In the lineage of kings and queens, or in the trust earned through genuine service? As you reflect, remember that the silent storm reshaping Buckingham Palace is far from over, and as one generation bows, another rises. The true future of the crown takes form in unexpected hands. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.